My confidence grew as I realized he liked what he saw and greeted him with a tender kiss when he greeted me. We started at the bar and sat on one of the bar stools, and when I stood up, I saw that he was looking at my nylon-covered legs, down to my panties. We both smiled as he ordered our drinks. I decided to turn off my phone so that nothing would interfere with the night's entertainment. She knew that this night would never happen again, and she was going to enjoy every moment. There was chemistry between us, and we got along like we were old friends. I found myself touching his arm and flirting, something I didn't usually do with anyone, including Jason. But today I was going to unleash my inner bitch and enjoy the experience. As we finished our second glass, the lovely hostess announced that our table was ready and showed us to our seats. The dinner was wonderful, and I enjoyed the conversation and our time together. When he asked if I still wanted to spend the night with him, I took off my heels and stuck my foot between his legs. When he looked down at my red toenails, peeking through the sheer nylon covering my foot, he smiled and said it was time to go. Holding hands, he led me to his hotel room, which he had already booked. As the elevator doors opened on the 14th floor, I realized what I was about to do, and suddenly thoughts of Jason flashed through my mind. He must have noticed something because he pulled me towards his strong body. When I looked up at him, he gave me a romantic kiss, the likes of which I had never experienced. That was all I needed to forget about my husband and marriage. Tonight I was going to be his and enjoy this experience. Once in the room, he wasted no time in unzipping my dress. When it fell to the floor, he took off his clothes and stood in front of me. He spun me around and told me how sexy I looked, then took off my bra and laid me on the bed. I don't know how long it lasted, but it was so sensual and loving that I melted in anticipation of future events. I got on my knees and worshipped his beautiful tool for the next 10 minutes. He couldn't take it anymore and forcibly removed my pantyhose and ordered me to put my heels back on because he found them so sexy. It made me feel a little lewd. While we were having sex, he kissed me several times. This man was an Olympic kissing champion. I thought briefly, gotta get Jason to do this, it's so sexy. Damn again comparisons. Enough. He continued to look deep into my eyes and said, I love you, Maggie. It was unexpected, and his words touched my heart. I can only describe it as a religious experience, and it was so powerful that I was overcome with tears of joy. We made love 4 more times that night and another time in the morning, each time as intense as the last. It was by far the best sexual experience of my life, and I was pleased with myself for allowing it to happen to Alexander. Thoughts of Jason began to bring me back to reality, but I tried to focus on the man who was hugging me as tightly as he could. As we lay there with the sun peeking through the curtains, he kissed me tenderly and stroked my hair. Maggie, as I said last night, I was serious. You are an amazing woman, so sexy and sensual, and I think I love you and want to spend more time with you. Can we meet again? Suddenly, I became worried and tried to be gentle. Alexander, it was the best sex of my life, and you are a wonderful, sweet man, but I'm happily married and I can't do it again. It was a one-time experience, I loved it, and you were great. You are a wonderful lover, and I enjoyed every second of it. Maggie, think before you say no. Your husband doesn't seem to mind, and if you let this continue, I can make you very happy. Just think about it before you say no, please. Good, yes. I'll think about it. But this is the best I can do right now. With another deep kiss, he held me tightly to him, and I melted into his arms. If I wasn't married to Jason, I would be with this man in a heartbeat. But my husband is Jason, and I hoped that he could forgive me for what I just did. After breakfast, we left the hotel, and while he was driving me home, I turned on my phone for the first time since our date last night and was shocked to see all the missed calls and texts. I saw Jason's message and felt a pang of guilt in my heart. This dear man was suffering, and I was not there. Tears came to my eyes, knowing that his pain was caused by me. Then, before I could move on to the next text message, the phone rang as Alexander turned into my neighborhood. Mom, where are you? Hey baby, I'm almost home. Mom, there was a fire in your house. We tried to call you all night, but it seems you turned off your phone. Fire? Where's your dad? That's the point, Mom. He's missing. Nobody knows where he is, and he doesn't answer calls either. I have a bad feeling, Mom. I'm almost there. I'll call you back. When Alexander turned the corner onto my street, I saw a fire truck and police in front of our house. I didn't see any damage at the front of the house and asked the firefighters what happened. Are you the owner of the house? He asked, since all the neighbors were watching me as I stood with an unfamiliar handsome man, my companion. Yes, I'm Maggie Spencer. Well, Mrs. Spencer, we were able to save the house. Only the back porch was damaged. But I'm afraid you won't be able to stay here until you call the experts to clean up the smoke from inside your house. The majority of the damage was to the small cottage behind your home. I'm afraid he's completely lost. I felt my legs give out when Alexander caught me and helped me sit on the curb. My studio? Is she damaged? Sorry, Mrs. Spencer, all that's left of her is smoldering ashes. We'll try to figure out the cause of the fire, but in the meantime, the police detective has a few questions for you. I quickly stood up and ran to the back of the house before Sergeant Wilson could ask me any questions. He caught up with me as I stood in front of the remains of my most prized possession. I immediately knew that Jason must have done this as revenge for my actions. Mrs. Spencer, do you know what happened here? Asked Sergeant Wilson. No, I wasn't there last night, and I have no idea about anything. Are you her husband? He asked, turning to Alexander. No, just a friend. I felt my face turn red with embarrassment as the sergeant gave me a knowing look and asked where my husband was. I said I don't know. When he asked where I was last night, I timidly said that I was with Alexander at the Hilton Hotel in the city center. The looks thrown at me by the sergeant and his assistant made me realize the seriousness of my situation. I just admitted that I didn't spend the night with my husband, who also disappeared. The detective now had questions. Mrs. Spencer, are you and your husband separated? Do you know where he was last night? No, we are a happy married couple. And then I realized how stupid it sounded after admitting that I spent the night with another man. Do you know where he is? No, he doesn't answer calls. We'll want to talk to him, so when you talk to him, please give him my number, he said, handing me his business card. I was shaking with anger and fear, anger at the loss of my refuge and all the work I had created over the years. Everything is gone, forever. Fear of thinking that Jason could be so angry as to do this and what it would mean for my marriage. I needed to talk to him as soon as possible. I called Brandy. Brandy, do you know where your father is? No, I haven't talked to him since yesterday evening. Why didn't you stay here with him like we planned? Mom, he threw me out and said that I was no longer his daughter. Hearing these words, I felt a chill rush through my body. Jason would never say something like that. And if he did, it would be much worse than I could have imagined. Entering the house, I saw damage to the walls from smoke and felt a terrible smell that permeated our home. It is obvious that it is impossible to live here in such conditions. I walked through our house and decided to take clothes and some personal items for a few days. When I entered the bedroom, I saw that everything had disappeared and I panicked. I realized that all my clothes, shoes, and personal belongings were missing. My heart sank to my stomach as I looked at my nightstand for my wedding rings. There were none. And why did I leave my rings? What was I thinking? If Jason saw them on my dresser, he must have thought I had abandoned him and our marriage. How stupid and selfish could I be? In complete panic, I ran around the house, looking into every room, and realized that all my things were missing. A terrible thought suddenly came to me. Did he really burn everything? Is there really nothing left? I ran out of the house and returned to the studio to take a closer look at the remains. I saw picture frames in the middle of the room and pieces of clothing that were not completely destroyed. It was obvious that Jason had not accepted my day off as expected, but had in fact destroyed everything important to me and cut me out of his life in one fell swoop. I called Brandy, crying, and told her what happened and that I needed somewhere to stay. Alexander quickly invited me to stay with him, but he was the last person on earth I wanted to see, and I told him that I needed to be alone and that he would please leave. He was hurt by my snark and left me standing there crying. At that moment, I was angry with myself and with the man with whom I spent the night. I knew I was wrong, but I blamed him for my selfish act of betrayal when the blame clearly lay with me. Brandy, I lost your father. Mom, don't say that. Dad loves you. Honey, he burned everything. All my clothes, my paintings, my studio, all. He didn't leave me anything, not even a place to live. He doesn't pick up the phone or answer my calls. I hurt him the most, and I don't blame him. What I did is unforgivable. I shouldn't have gone on that date and just told him how I felt. We could have worked things out, but my selfishness pushed him away. If I were in his place, I would never be able to take him back. What should I do now? I have neither housing nor clothes. Mom, don't blame yourself. The fault is partly mine, and you can live with us until your house is restored. This afternoon, we can buy new clothes and settle you in the evening. Brandy, all my paintings and sculptures are missing. 30 years of marriage and 20 years of my life's work were destroyed, and I was left alone. I have nothing to live for, Maggie sobbed openly, while the neighbors looked at her from the road. My God, your father is calling me. I'll call you back. Fumbling with the buttons, desperately trying to answer the call, she almost passed out. But at the last second, she managed to connect. Jason, is that you? Hi, Maggie. How are you? Jason, where are you? Please come home. We need to talk. No, Maggie, I know everything from your daughter. Yes, your daughter, not mine. You are both dead to me, and this may be the last time we talk. Jason, no, please don't say that. I love you. You should know this. Jason, the studio is gone. Did you do this? Maggie, you did it. Not me. Maybe not physically, but she burned from your treachery and betrayal. When I saw that your wedding rings were thrown away and you gave yourself to another, in my heart you died. Your actions are inexcusable, and Brandy's involvement is humiliating and incomprehensible. We're done. I'll meet with the lawyers on Monday and start the process. Please, Jason, can't we talk and work things out? You can't just throw away our 30 wonderful years like that. Maggie, we're talking, and I'm not the one who threw away our 30 wonderful years. You planned to betray me, gave me 2 weeks of amazing love to ease your conscience, and then cheated on me with the help of your daughter. There is no person on this entire earth who could accept these actions or forgive and forget this level of treachery and betrayal. It was pure evil, and I pray that you regret your actions for the rest of your pathetic life. This is the last time we talk. You can contact me through my attorney's contact information, which will be included with the divorce decree. Goodbye, Maggie. Jason, no, wait. Jason? Jason was gone, and so was the world I loved and cherished. Brandy arrived just as I was holding the phone, calling Jason, who had already hung up. We hugged each other, crying over our loss. Finally, we realized that we could not remain in the ruins that my home had become while the fire and police investigated. We needed to figure this out, so we went to Brandy's house. When we arrived at her house, she explained everything to Mike, who was shocked by her explanation of events. Brandy tried to tell the whole story, but when Mike learned that his wife had arranged a date with her friend's father, he was shocked and disgusted, and his anger flared. Brandy, you arranged a date with another man for your mother, and on top of that, you knew that your father would be alone? You should have known he wouldn't accept it. What kind of man would allow his wife to go on a date with another? Is this what you'll do when we get older? Will you voluntarily cuckold me like your mother did to your father? He was such a wonderful guy, and you and your mom were his whole world. What have you done, Brandy? I'll tell you what you did. You destroyed a good man and forced him to do unthinkable things. I can't express how disappointed I am in you, Brandy. I will contact him and apologize for your stupidity. When this is all over, you and I will have a long conversation about our future together. Having children with you is officially on hold until I better understand your values. I'll tell you straight, I don't share them, and I will never tolerate such betrayal. She was shocked by his anger and surprised that he did not understand her mother's situation. It was just a one-time date, after 30 years of marriage, for God's sake. So what? Later, she realized that the big problem was the end of her parents' marriage, the loss of her father and her mother's happy life. Soon, they will all know the consequences of her action. 5 long days later, I returned to my house to assess the damage. I wasn't going to file an insurance claim because I didn't want to add any more potential costs to what I already had. At the meeting with the lawyer, I explained that the house belonged to me and was not part of the settlement. Maggie can get half our savings and no child support. If she resists, I will file a suit for adultery and tell everyone how she cheated on me with her daughter's friend's father. I've already met with a lawyer and started filing divorce papers. Then I asked for the name of a criminal arson lawyer, but after meeting with him, I realized that since I owned the property, there probably wouldn't be a criminal prosecution unless I filed an insurance claim, which I had no intention of doing. In the worst-case scenario, firefighters may issue a fine, but criminal charges will not go through the courts unless a false report is filed. One of our neighbors, who Brandy went to school with, called her when she saw me come home and enter the house. Brandy quickly came to me. I was inspecting the damage and assessing the work needed to make the house livable when I heard the front door open. "Dad! Dad, where are you?" I heard Brandy scream as she entered the house. I didn't answer and continued assessing the damage. Looking out the window and seeing the pile of ashes that had once been Maggie's hideout, I smiled. When Brandy found me in one of the bedrooms, she quickly ran up to me and gave me a big hug. "Daddy, I am so sorry. Please forgive us. We love you." "Brandy, I will never forgive either of you, and I already told you to never talk to me again. Now please let me go and leave me alone, and no, you are my father and you must forgive me. I am your only daughter and you love me. Pay attention. I no longer have a daughter, only a treacherous woman who broke my heart. Now you are not my daughter. Please leave me alone. Dad, Mom needs you. She lives with us and misses you very much. She cries all the time and wants to apologize to you for her mistake. Could you come to my house and see her?" Never. The moment she went on that date and spent the night with another man, she ended our marriage. Hell, she even left her wedding rings on the table, which means the end of our marriage. It's over and I won't talk to her anymore. You can both contact me through my lawyer. Later today, I will buy a new phone and number, but for now, you better go and be with your cheating mother. Are you really going to throw away 30 years of a happy marriage with your mother? No, not me. Your mother threw away these 30 years as soon as she took off the rings and went to her lover. It was you and your mother who ruined my 30 happy years, and for this I will never forgive or forget you. Now get out of my house. The second time, Brandy ran out of her childhood home crying. The pain of her dad telling her that she was no longer his daughter was devastating and heartbreaking. Even years of therapy could never take away the pain of his words. The next day, Maggie was served with divorce papers and collapsed, realizing that her marriage was over because of her selfish act of infidelity. She tried to fight him, went to counseling, tried to talk to Jason, but to no avail. He never spoke to her or Brandy again. Mike finally got through to Jason and expressed his anger and disappointment at what the girls had done. He said he'd changed his mind about having children because of his feelings about Brandy's loyalty and her involvement in what they did to Jason. Mike would never want to live with a woman who thought like this and is currently undergoing couples counseling to see if they can save their marriage. Maggie wanted to move back into the house after Jason rebuilt it, but the divorce agreement stated that the house belonged to Jason and was not part of the divorce agreement, and she would have to find her own place. The judge eventually awarded her half of their savings and $3,000 a month in child support for 10 years, which he had no intention of paying. Maggie will have to find a job and support herself, something she had not had to do during the previous 30 years of their marriage. She eventually moved out of her daughter's apartment and into a small one-room apartment near the city center, where she found work at a small art gallery as a sales agent to make ends meet. Maggie's creative freedom was suddenly in jeopardy. She will no longer be able to spend all her time in the beautiful studio that Jason built for her. She will no longer be able to sit in front of her art projects and enjoy the beautiful view of the lake from the large panoramic windows that her husband gave her. Soon, she will be too busy with work and will use all her free time to make her life even a little like before. All her free time was gone, along with her luxury and happy marriage, all for one exciting night with another man. She can never find enough tears. She would never have enough tears to erase all the hurt and suffering caused by her one-time experience. No, her loving husband Jason would never speak to her again. Hearing how he disowned their daughter left her heartbroken. Brandy fell into a deep depression due to the breakdown of her parents' marriage. To cope with the pain and save her own marriage, which was now falling apart, she turned to a psychotherapist. A few months later, the house was restored. Jason continued to pay the court-ordered compensation and, without warning anyone, sold the house. One day after the sale, Maggie came to him to try to reconcile and ask for forgiveness. When she rang the bell, she was greeted by a young couple opening the door. "Hello, how can we help you?" the woman asked. "Yes, I'm looking for Jason Spencer. He is here?" "Oh, that nice man who sold us this house?" "No, he said he was leaving the country to start a new life. He was so sweet and so helpful." "Are you by any chance Maggie?" "Yes, it's me. He left an envelope and asked us to give it to you if you ever stop by." "Thank you. I will read it later. Good luck and enjoy this wonderful home." Maggie sat in the car and cried, knowing that she would never see Jason again, and about the love that she had so carelessly thrown away. Returning to her lonely apartment, she sat up in bed, her hand trembling as she opened the letter. Maggie, 30 wonderful years. I will always remember the wonderful life we lived together. You were my first and only love, and I am very sorry that I did not cope with the role of your husband. If I had known that you needed more, I would have raised heaven and earth for you. But since you have decided to seek your path alone, then this is how we will end our marriage. Alone. After 2 wonderful weeks leading up to your betrayal, I actually believed that you had fallen in love with me again. These weeks were the happiest in all the years that I spent with you. When Brandy explained how you used these weeks to distract me from your betrayal, it crushed my soul. I'm sure your daughter already told you, but that night I was so excited to come home to give you a special night. With 24 roses, your favorite chocolates, and wine, I was going to surprise you with a new cruise on the yacht Love. Having learned that your love and adoration was fake, and your real goal was to sleep with another man, I felt humiliated. Congratulations, you ruined me and our marriage. Because of this, I can no longer stay in this city. I quit my job and found a new life in another country. Don't try to look for me because I will be offline, and I really don't want to talk to you or your daughter anymore. This part of my life is over, and I will start a new life without you. It will take me years to get over the pain and betrayal you both caused. There was no way I could stay in this wonderful home without the love of my life and my wonderful daughter. Since both of them are now dead to me, I have no reason to stay here. I sincerely hope that your special night was worth our marriage and my love. I suspect so, and I'm sure you and your daughter will enjoy the stories you share. Have a happy life, and please forget about me and our years together. Like I already did. My new life has already begun without you. JS. She actually thought there were no more tears left, but after reading his letter, she sobbed uncontrollably all night, curled up in a ball. The excitement and memories of the amazing sex with Alexander became a distant memory, now replaced by regret and sadness. Now, aged 52 and alone, she knew her future without Jason was bleak. She gave up her luxurious life for one night of selfish excitement. Jason came to Alexander late at night as he was leaving for his new home in Ecuador. When the door opened, Jason pushed his way into the house and introduced himself as the husband of the woman he had stolen from him. Alexander tried to explain that he thought Maggie didn't mind being with him and would never have pursued her if he thought she didn't. But it was too late. Jason didn't accept any of his excuses. All the anger, rage, and pain with which he had lived for the past months turned out to be directed at the predator standing in front of him. The conversation was quick as Jason used a crowbar. In less than a minute, Alexander's life changed forever. Before Jason walked to his waiting Uber to leave for the airport and fly out of the country, he looked at the wincing man and said, "I give advice, asshole. Having sex with a married woman is harmful to your health." By the time Alexander arrived at the emergency room and told the police what had happened, Jason was already on his way to his new apartment on the beach in the province of Manabi. His new life had to begin without his previous baggage and family. It took police detectives 2 weeks to figure out that Jason was no longer in the country, and they couldn't touch him until he returned home. Even if they managed to find him, there is no extradition in Ecuador for assault charges. Alexander spent 2 agonizing weeks in the hospital and many months in physical therapy, learning to walk with his new knees. Unfortunately for him, the 25 stitches on his face will remain a lasting reminder of that night with the married woman. He didn't know what his life would be like, but he knew that the life he once had was over, thanks to those 2 women who convinced him to take someone else's wife. He never spoke or saw Maggie or Brandy again. Brandy's husband, Mike, nearly divorced her over the incident, but a psychologist helped Brandy understand what she had done, and she promised to remain faithful to Mike and their future family. Mike waited 2 years before agreeing to have children, to convince himself that his wife would never betray him the way she betrayed her father. True to his word and her remorse, Jason never spoke to Brandy again. By her action, she forever rejected her dad and his love. Upon learning of Alexander's beating, Maggie and Brandy were devastated and felt responsible for the attack, adding to the guilt and pain they caused Jason and for destroying their family. It was another reminder that their actions had far-reaching consequences that they didn't even know about. Both realized that their delusional thoughts, that if only Jason had allowed Maggie that one time, their happy life would have continued, were wrong. Their stupidity meant that a happy life could never be further from the truth. The loss of their father and husband became a deep pain for them, with which they will live until the end of their days. Due to depression and age, she never found another man and lived a lonely, sad life. All her plans for a happy old age with Jason and their grandchildren were now just a distant memory. Since Jason stopped paying child support as soon as he left the country, her savings won't last long and she'll have to continue working to survive. Crying in her sleep became her usual activity. I now have over $750,000 from the sale of my house, and the money I have saved over the past 30 years, minus the purchase of my new apartment. With this amount of money here in Ecuador, my next 30 years will be lived in comfort and peace. There are a lot of young, pretty women here who appreciate the generous American man, and I enjoy being with all of them. 6 months after that terrible night, I found myself on the beach in Puerto Lopez, opposite my new apartment, drinking a cold beer, and came to the realization that divorce is normal. Breaking up is okay. It's okay to be alone. What is not normal is staying in a place where you are not valued or valued. This will never happen again. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.